physiologically speaking, a raw emotion, it actually only lasts about 90 seconds.
Right.
Like the actual chemical flush of anger or sadness or fear even, it completely clears your nervous system in a minute and a half.
Which is pretty wild when you think about it.
Right. So why does a physical injury have the power to keep someone emotionally paralyzed for years?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Welcome to today's deep dive, where we are doing some serious excavation for anyone out there who, might be feeling stuck in a personal rut.
We're looking at a really fascinating cross-section of sources today
Yeah.
to try and decode the actual mechanics of getting unstuck.
Yeah.
We are pulling from a highly detailed client intake form and some impact blogs that chronicle the physical transformation of a woman named Yolanda Camarillo down at WYNOT Fitness in Eagle Pass, Texas.
But we aren't just reading a fitness diary here.
No, definitely not.
We are cross-referencing her journey with clinical psychology literature on neuroplasticity from Psychology Today and exploring the 7 stages of emotional healing. Plus, we're looking at a comprehensive guide on addiction recovery from Seacrest Recovery.
Which seems disconnected, but it's really not.
Exactly. And perhaps the strangest source in our stack, a literal recap TCH error page from the National Institutes of Health website.
I love that source. It serves as the perfect mechanical analogy for what happens when the human body just breaks down.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to understand exactly how physical movement can directly rewire your brain out of an emotional paralysis.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the physical reality of being completely, utterly frozen.
Right.
Because in Yolanda's case, this wasn't a metaphor. She suffered from a severe medical condition known as adhesive capsulitis, which is commonly referred to as frozen shoulder.
And for those unfamiliar with the pathology, adhesive capsulitis happens when the connective tissue surrounding the shoulder joint, the shoulder capsule, thickens and tightens.
Sounds incredibly painful.
It is. It severely restricts movement and causes agonizing chronic pain. It isn't just a mild inconvenience, The joint essentially locks up.
Right, and Yolanda's intake form details this devastating daily impact. Like, her mobility was so restricted she physically could not wash her own hair.
Wow.
She couldn't reach overhead to grab a glass from a cabinet. The pain was so intense it disrupted her sleep every single night, and she couldn't even reach behind her back to hug her own bra.
That physical limitation forces an immediate, brutal emotional toll.
Oh, for sure.
Yolanda notes in her form that she had always been a fiercely independent person.
Right.
So when your core identity relies on being highly capable, and suddenly you need another person to help you with the most intimate, basic daily tasks, getting dressed, doing your hair, it triggers a profound identity crisis.
Yeah, I mean, how could it not?
She reported feeling scared, deeply sad, and pushed to the absolute verge of clinical depression.
Her entire system essentially shut down. And this is exactly where that strange outlier source in our stack comes into play, that recappy TCHA error page from the NIH.
The analogy here is spot on.
The error message on the page basically reads, your computer or network may be sending automated queries. To protect our users, we can't process your request right now.
Right, and the central nervous system acts exactly like that server. When Yolanda's shoulder joint tissues thickened and inflamed, a flood of pain signals just bombarded her brain.
Like a server getting overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Whoa.
The brain interpreted that massive spike in signals as a threat, much like a network reads a DDoS attack, a dangerous spike in automated queries.
Wow.
So to protect the larger system from further damage, the brain basically threw a CAPI TCH. It completely locked the shoulder joint down. We can't process your request to lift your arm right now. Access denied.
But the thing is, you can't just sit there staring at a CAPI TCH screen.
No, you'd never get anywhere.
If you're browsing the web and you hit one, you have to click the boxes containing crosswalks or traffic lights to prove you aren't a malicious robot. Right.
You have to actively prove to the system that you are safe to let in. So how do you prove to your own nervous system that you are safe when your body is screaming in pain?
Well, to figure that out, we have to look at the underlying biology of habit, which is detailed brilliantly by Moshe Ratzin in our Psychology Today source.
Okay.
The human brain is a massive energy sink. It consumes a disproportionate amount of our daily caloric intake.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, so because of this, it is biologically hardwired to conserve energy by relying on efficient, habitual behaviors.
It likes the path of least resistance.
It demands it. When we experience severe pain, whether physical or emotional, Our mental focus narrows. We start obsessing over the limitation.
And that changes the brain, right?
Exactly. The neural pathways associated with that pain and limitation actually thicken. They become the brain's new superhighways because dwelling on the familiar pain takes less cognitive energy than figuring out a complex escape route. But wait, if the brain strongly prefers efficiency and building new neural pathways requires this massive expenditure of energy, isn't getting depressed and staying in bed the brain's most efficient, low-energy response to a severe injury? Like, when you try to recover, aren't you essentially fighting your own baseline biology?
What's fascinating here is you are absolutely right.
Really?
You are going to war with your own biology. The default setting of a traumatized brain is to conserve energy and avoid risk.
Just shut everything down.
Right. To fight that, you have to intentionally force neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to forge new neural connections.
Okay, so how do you do that?
The clinical sources emphasize a rigid three-step hierarchy to achieve this. Visualize, strategize, and practice.
And we have to be clear here that practice isn't just some vague motivational concept.
No, not at all.
It's a biological construction project. Every time you practice a desired physical movement or a new coping mechanism, your brain wraps a fatty substance called myelin around the specific nerve fibers involved in that action.
Yes. The myelin sheath acts as electrical insulation.
Like a wire.
Exactly like that. And the thicker the myelin gets from repeated practice, the faster and stronger the neurological signal travels. You are literally paving a dirt road to turn it into a high-speed neural superhighway.
That's incredible.
But there's a massive trap waiting in this process.
Oh.
A lot of modern self-care advice focuses heavily on simply validating your pain.
Right.
Acknowledgement is crucial. But if you stop there, if you just sit around endlessly journaling about how much your shoulder hurts or how sad you are actively laying down myelin on the pathways of your own suffering.
Oh, wow. So you're making the bad pathways faster.
Yes, you are reinforcing the CAPI-TCHA error.
And Yolanda actually fell into this trap initially.
She did.
Her intake form reveals she tried to rehabilitate her shoulder completely by herself at home. She isolated herself, tried to fight her own biology alone, and admits it completely failed.
Yeah.
Her old strategies were useless against this level of system lockdown.
That failed solo attempt maps perfectly onto the framework outlined in our clinical psychology sources, specifically the 7 stages of emotional healing.
Let's list those out.
Sure. Those stages are awareness, acceptance, processing, release, growth, integration, and finally, transformation.
Yolanda hit the first 2 stages on her own, right? Awareness meant acknowledging the shoulder was frozen and her life was shrinking. And acceptance came when she realized her isolated, at-home rehab strategy wasn't working.
But the 3rd stage, processing, is where the entire machine usually grinds to a halt.
Why is that?
Because this is where people fall into the rumination trap. And this brings us back to that unbelievable physiological fact from neuroscientist Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor that you mentioned at the start of the deep dive.
The 90-second rule.
Exactly. From a purely biological standpoint, an emotion is only designed to last 90 seconds.
The chemical rush of adrenaline or cortisol that creates the feeling of anger or despair flushes completely through your bloodstream in a minute and a half. So if you are feeling an emotion for 3 days or 3 months, it isn't because the initial chemical flush is still happening.
No, it's long gone.
It's because you are actively choosing to feed it. You are ruminating. You are catastrophizing the future, which signals the brain to dump a fresh batch of chemicals, starting the 90-second clock all over again.
You are manufacturing a permanent state of distress out of a temporary biological response.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about a raw emotion like a spark.
Okay.
A spark flashes, it's incredibly hot, but it naturally burns out in 90 seconds if it has nothing to catch on.
Right.
Rumination, telling yourself the story of your pain over and over, isolating yourself in your house, is like actively standing over that spark and throwing cups of gasoline onto it.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
And to stop throwing the gasoline, the psychology literature states you must engage in what they call supportive coping.
Supportive coping.
Yeah. You have to replace avoidant, numbing behaviors with active emotional regulation. And this regulation is heavily physiological.
Meaning you use your body to fix your mind.
Exactly. The sources highlight how techniques like timed breathing or applying ice to the body physically reset the vagus nerve.
And the vagus nerve essentially acts as the primary brake pedal for your body's fight or flight system.
Yes.
When you are ruminating in pain, your sympathetic nervous system is slamming the gas pedal. Your heart rate elevates, your muscles tense up to guard the injury.
Right. And to stop it, you have to engage the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode.
Which you can mechanically force?
You can. You can physically force that brake pedal down. By inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4, and extending the exhale for 8 seconds, you physically slow the heart rate.
Okay.
That slower rhythm signals the vagus nerve to stand down, which short-circuits the emotional feedback loop.
For Yolanda, that supportive coping mechanism, her physical short circuit, became functional fitness. She couldn't think her way out of a frozen shoulder, so she used highly structured physical movement to stop the rumination.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the emotional mechanics of Yolanda's recovery directly mirror the protocols used in addiction treatment.
Yeah, specifically the frameworks we pulled from Seacrest Recovery.
Right.
Which, I mean, it seems like a massive leap to look at an addiction recovery center's protocols in a deep dive about rehabbing a shoulder in Texas.
It does sound strange at first.
But the neurochemistry makes it identical.
It really does.
Yeah.
When an individual battling addiction removes the substance they've been using, their brain is suddenly starved of the artificial dopamine and endorphins it relied on to regulate distress.
The coping mechanism just vanishes.
Exactly, leaving the central nervous system raw, panicked, and highly volatile.
And Yolanda's regulatory mechanism wasn't a substance, it was her physical independence.
Yes.
She regulated her own sense of self-worth and emotional stability by being highly capable. When adhesive capsulitis stripped that capability away, she experienced the exact same neurological crash.
The brain was starved of its normal regulatory feedback.
She was left emotionally raw and terrified.
And in both of these scenarios, recovering from substance abuse and recovering from a devastating physical loss, the individual is incredibly vulnerable to isolation.
Because you just want to hide.
Exactly. But the Seacrest source emphasizes a critical rule. You cannot heal in isolation.
Period.
Period. When your internal chemistry is that volatile, you have to move into a structured, supportive community. You need an environment that helps co-regulate your nervous system while you rebuild your self-worth.
Which is exactly what Yolanda found in Eagle Pass. She didn't sign up for a generic mirrors and treadmills big box gym.
No, she joined the Transformers tribe at WYNOT Fitness.
The blogs in our stack outline just how fundamentally different this ecosystem is. The certified coaches didn't hand her a generic workout sheet and tell her to, just push through the pain.
Which would have been disastrous.
Right. They provided hyper-focused attention on her specific biomechanical limitations.
They weren't training her for aesthetic goals or bodybuilding stages.
Right.
They focused entirely on longevity, progressive functional training, and safe weightlifting protocols. They mapped out a specific strategy to rebuild her physical capacity while simultaneously providing the community support she needed to stay out of the rumination trap.
You can hear the immense impact of that environment in Yolanda's own words from her intake form.
Yeah, that quote is powerful.
When asked what advice she would give others dealing with severe pain or reduced mobility, she wrote, "At any age, it is so important to start working out. At WYNOT Fitness, nobody judges you. Just start."
The absence of judgment is the cornerstone of any effective healing community.
It has to be.
It strips away the shame of being broken, which allows the nervous system to finally relax. When you aren't expending energy hiding your limitations, you can redirect that energy into the actual work of repairing the tissue and laying down new myelin pathways.
And consistently doing that work leads directly to stage 7 of the emotional healing framework, transformation.
The final stage.
Yeah. By adhering to the WYNOT functional mobility protocol, Yolanda achieved a massive, measurable milestone on April 1st, 2025.
The very milestone that was causing her so much profound daily distress.
Exactly. For the first time since her shoulder froze and her nervous system locked her out, she successfully reached behind her back and hooked her own bra entirely independently.
For anyone who has never lost their mobility, hooking a bra sounds trivial.
Oh, totally. Like you don't even think about it.
But think about the complex biomechanics required to perform that action. It requires internal rotation of the shoulder, extension, and reaching behind the back without visual guidance.
It's a lot of moving parts.
It means the shoulder capsule had completely thawed, and the surrounding musculature had been rebuilt strongly enough to stabilize the joint in a highly vulnerable position.
It is the ultimate test of the system. Yolanda wrote that achieving this brought her to tears of joy. She described her journey as a 10 out of 10 transformation. And it embodies stage 7 perfectly because it isn't just that her shoulder moved again. It represents a fundamental shift in her emotional outlook.
She clicked the crosswalks.
Exactly. She proved to her nervous system that she was safe, and she regained her agency.
And once you reach transformation, the goalposts move.
How so?
You transition from merely surviving, from just trying to claw your way back to a baseline, into actively optimizing your life. Yolanda's mobility and strength haven't just been restored, they've been upgraded.
Yeah, she is currently executing push-ups, burpees, and shoulder presses.
Which is staggering considering she previously couldn't lift her arm past her own elbow.
Right.
It is a testament to the sheer power of neuroplasticity and physical adaptation. And her next metric of success proves she has completely left her fear behind.
What's she doing next?
She isn't just maintaining her joint health, she is actively training to execute unassisted pull-ups.
Yeah.
She went from being unable to dress herself to targeting one of the most demanding upper body functional movements in existence.
So, what does this all mean?
Yeah.
We started with a locked-up shoulder and a computer error screen, and we've navigated through the construction of myelin, the 90-second lifespan of an emotion, the vagus nerve, and the neurochemical parallels of addiction recovery.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. But Yolanda really anchored this entire deep dive with her core philosophy, which she shared at the end of her form. Training today is the insurance that your body will thank tomorrow.
That quote perfectly synthesizes the mission of the WYNOT World Wide ecosystem. They prove on a daily basis that physical discipline and mental resilience aren't two separate tracks running parallel to each other. They are the exact same track.
Yeah.
Healing her frozen shoulder wasn't just a mechanical process of stretching a joint. It was a psychological process of thawing out a frozen emotional state. By deliberately moving her body under the guidance of a supportive tribe, she reestablished the connection to her own life.
She bypassed the nervous system's CAPI-TCH error. She proved she wasn't a malicious automated query. She was the administrator of her own system once again.
I love that.
And that brings the focus right back to you listening to this. We've gone deep into Yolanda's story and the biological mechanics of getting unstuck, but the real value is in the application.
Absolutely.
What physical or emotional limitation have you quietly accepted as a permanent fixture in your life? Have you told yourself, my back is just always going to hurt, or I'm just an anxious person now, and allowed that limitation to calcify into your identity?
It's so easy to do.
It is. Are you isolating yourself in that pain, throwing gasoline on the spark, or are you actively seeking out your own tribe to help you co-regulate and heal without judgment?
This raises an important question, especially when we consider the hard neuroscience we unpack today.
Right.
If biology dictates that a raw emotion naturally expires and flushes from your system in just 90 seconds, what stories are you actively telling yourself right now to keep your own pain alive? And more importantly, knowing exactly how neuroplasticity works, what physical action will you take today to short-circuit that loop and write a new story for tomorrow?